like to call to order the Board of Zoning and Appeals. Would staff please call the roll?
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Here.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Here.
Mr. Bowler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And now, with everyone having the chance to review the minutes, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from June 14th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 14th, 2022.
I second.
Staff, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Should Dave say yes again?
Yeah,
just for-
Dave, could you say yes one more time? We now have you on video.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty. And if staff could go ahead and review the rules and procedures for tonight, please?
Yes, for all petitions, tonight's meeting has the following structure. The department will summarize the petition and describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. Then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the board. The president will open a public hearing, and individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes to speak. Only one member of the group will be given 5 minutes to speak. For efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to board members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments. The board will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. Few comments for BZA members and petitioners this evening. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, and if you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, once the public hearing is opened by the president, then please approach the podium and write your name and address on the sign-in sheet. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line, and those comments will be forwarded to board members and the petitioner. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record. We ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed and you will be advised when there is approximately 30 seconds remaining. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Thank you.
And thank you, Dane. And before we get into the items of business, I just want to say that as vice chair, I'm filling in to run the meeting tonight since Dave is virtual. So have to have someone present who is running the meeting. So please bear with me if I make any mistakes. It's my first time. With that, if we could go ahead and jump into 2207-VS-24, 16132 Oak Road.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you tonight is a request to permit a detached garage to be located closer than 10 feet from the established front yard on 1.93 acres in the SF2 Single Family Low Density District. The property is located at 16132 Oak Road. This item before you this evening is for a public hearing. It has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has not received any public comments regarding the proposal. The petitioner, Kelly Thompson, is here tonight. Plans to present some details of the project. She is available to answer any questions, as am I, should you have any for staff. Thank you.
Kelly, are you here? Nope.
There we go. Thanks. I'm Kelly Thompson. I appreciate you guys listening to me. The house that we live in now currently doesn't have a garage. And if we look at where the area is that I have to put the garage, it's directly behind the house if I go by the rules and regulations of Westfield. And what I'm asking, can I walk up there? Is that okay? To point at something?
So the issue
It-
is
if-
Dave can't hear him.
If you could go ahead and move back to the mic since we know the location now. Thank you.
Thanks. This is my first time too. So this is where it says that I have to put it. We've got a natural, I'm sorry. It's right back here. Trying to get a direction here on my, bearing on my house. That's the concrete. There's the house, the deck. So I'd have to put it, the garage back here. I'm sorry. And that would encroach into the neighbor's property line, and our septic system sits back here, and then there's a natural swale that comes back around, that comes back down to where they're gonna put the roundabout right here. There's a pipeline that runs down through here, so we can't put anything out here. And really the only place that we can put it is right here at the end of where this concrete is right here. And that used to be the old garage right there, and that's the front of where the old garage used to be, but it's been converted into a, like a family room or a living room. And so, you know, and we were gonna use this concrete right here as kind of the driveway into the garage. And if it would help, you know, we could move the front of the garage back to where it's even with that, but excuse me. But, you know, we were going to use this one as a garage. I've got a car, and then our daily drivers, we want to put it in our lawnmower. And then part of that we want to use to block the vision of this roundabout right here from the rest of this property right here. But if we don't get the variance, I can't put the garage in. Even if I move the septic system, I don't think right now we're going to be impeding on my neighbor's property line back there. Thank you.
And if none of my fellow board members have any immediate questions, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:07 PM. If anyone here would like to speak on this matter, please come on up. Otherwise, if you're attending virtually, please send in an email. Give it a few minutes here. Anything from staff virtually?
We have no virtual comments.
All right, thank you. Just give it a few more moments. Oh, well, I'll just jump the gun. I won't. I'll go ahead and close public hearing at 7:08. Do any of my fellow board members have any comments or questions? I just have one that if the petitioner would please step back up, just want to make sure that you're aware. Are you aware of the two recommended conditions? So the first is just outlining that with your submittal of the plans, that just has to be in substantial compliance to that. And if you make any changes, just have to come back to staff to acknowledge those.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
With that, could I get a motion?
I want to clarify something if I could. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. And this may be for Ryan, for staff. I didn't notice in the materials any rendering of where the building lies, its orientation on the ground. And I wasn't totally clear in my mind on how the standard works. If I understand it correctly, the building has to be located 10 feet behind the front yard setback line. Is that right? So if the setback's 75 feet, then this building has to be 85 feet back. Is that what am I interpreting that right?
So the established front yard, I believe that starts right where the beginning facade starts from the building. So the accessory structure cannot be encroaching in that 10 feet minimum that the building must have from the front facade in the front yard, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
so it's not the setback line, it's the front facade of the building, and the accessory building has to be 10 feet behind that.
Correct, and that's the proposal essentially, is
I got you.
encroaching a
And
little bit.
How many feet behind, since we don't have a rendering of the building, of the garage location, how far behind the facade is it proposed to locate the building?
I'm not entirely sure. Kelly, do you have?
Because basically you're extending the plane of the building and they just have to be behind that 10 feet. They can't fit it all in, but how close is it? It's not going in front of the setback line, is it, or is it?
There's no request to actually encroach into the setback.
I keep saying the setback. I mean the front plane of the building, sorry. I guess my suggestion would be, to the extent this would be approved, that there be a rendering that would show the location. I think the renderings of the building are great. It's consistent with the architecture of the house, and certainly be a great functional addition, and blocking the view, as Kelly mentioned, I think that makes sense too. It's just that we don't have anything in the file that shows the location of the garage with respect to the front plane of the building, and it seemed that's kind of vital here.
Sure. Kelly, is that something we could perhaps get rolling, some sort of rendering on the exact location of it?
There's it shows 119 feet. I'd have to get more detail with you, but I think one of the problems too is they considered us having two front yards. We had a front yard on Oak Road and a front yard on 161st Street, which was, I believe, kind of hamstringing us to put that thing in the backyard. But as soon as we leave here and I can get home, I can email you guys that drawing. I've got the exact measurements on it, and the one I have here is just the one that I made the drawing of.
Well, Kelly, just to kind of describe it, where the building is, are the garage doors facing to the north, or are they facing the road to the east?
The garage doors will be facing to the north.
Okay. And then will the garage be in front of the front, will it be east of the front facade of the building? The front plane of your house, I should say.
Yes, it's going to go right there. Right there's the existing garage. So it's got actually, I don't know if the existing garage is considered house or not. Yes, that's correct.
So on this exhibit that Kelly brought in, it looks like the proposed garage is going to be on the south of the existing building. So it seems like the existing driveway is going to be utilized for the proposed garage, correct? So it's going to be on that south side of the driveway with the garage doors facing north, if that can be envisioned.
With the garage, but the garage, will it break the plane of the front of the house along Oak Road? I don't know that I care. I'm just trying to get a sense of where this thing's going to be located.
It will by about 8 feet. Sorry. It will by about 8 feet. We could move it back the 8 feet, and that would make it even with the, what I'll say, the old garage that we converted into part of the house.
Okay, so basically it would be located south of the house, and probably about that single car garage stall would be located in front of the front plane of the house
Yes, sir, that's correct.
along Elk Road.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. I don't know that that's objectionable. I'd be interested in what any other board members think about that. I'm just trying to get a sense of that where, and apparently the setback line is large enough that that's not an issue. There's no setback variance required because the house must be significantly behind the front yard setback requirement. Right, Ryan?
They're talking.
Should be 100 feet up the front of the center line of Oak Road, back to the front of the house is 100 feet.
So I guess, Ryan, does that mean that there's no, if he's set back 100 feet from the center line, I don't know what the setback line is off the right of way. But is he sufficiently far enough back that we don't have a setback issue? Because with the lack of the illustration, we don't really know what we've got.
Sure. At minimum, it's going to be 80 feet. And then on,
Are we able to adopt the physical map that we have presented as an exhibit, since we don't have it digitally, and just say, again, throw that into being in substantial compliance?
sure, yeah. I believe so.
Are there any other comments from the board?
Well, we were just looking at the Google Maps to see how your lawn was situated, because on the map here that we have on our screen, it looks like there's a walkway or a pathway that goes behind your what was your garage, off of the driveway. But in reality, it's like a bush, and maybe that's just a wear in the grass, I'm not sure. So is it gonna go where that bush is now? No? I guess I'm still not clear where it's gonna be.
So Kelly, you have some cars parked, like on Google Maps, there's like 3 cars parked to the left of the driveway. So you come down the driveway towards your house, and then you've got like a parking pad to the left, correct? So is it gonna go right in front of that parking pad? Yes, sir. Okay. Gotcha, okay. Yeah.
Brian, I found that drawing.
Would staff be okay with the physical maps, or?
So we have another exhibit here, which actually shows the dimensions of the proposed garage and the location. But on this map, there's no setback shown from Oak Road to the location of the garage. But at least on this one, we have a precise location with dimensions and exactly approximately where the garage is going to be located.
Where's the east edge of the garage relative to the house? 'Cause I can't see the.
Generally flush,
Okay.
approximately. Can't exactly tell, but
So, I mean, we could make a motion that the variance, that the garage be permitted to be located closer than 10 feet from the established front yard, but not into the established front yard, cannot encroach into the established front yard. So at the very least, it can not go any further than the front building facade's plane. I mean, I don't know that that matter, if that is actually a point of contention or anything. That would be my question. Do we need to limit how much it can encroach into the front yard? I guess is my question.
I would think it would there'd be something that would make sense architecturally with the rest of the building, and that would kind of dictate where it would be located. And in that sense, it probably doesn't. You know, I think if you have an exhibit there that illustrates where the thing's located, then where the garage is proposed to be located, then at least from my perspective, that and knowing roughly where it is relative to the front facade of the front plane of the building, that is fine with me. I just right now not having anything locating that garage is not where I would like it to be.
We do have a site plan we can enter as, as a new exhibit, and that it also has to be built substantially compliant with the exhibit that was provided to us this evening. I know, Dave, you can't see it, but if you're comfortable with that, I think we can go that route as well.
Yeah, if other board members are fine with it, then I am as well.
Would we be able to just get one pass through real quick of it, since we haven't been able to look at it, please? Thank you. Dave, just so you know, to illustrate again, where it is outlined on this physical map is, when you look at Google Maps, it's nearly where the concrete flat parking space is. So basically just making, butts up right to it, basically making a covered garage over a space that's already used for parking. Here you go, Ryan.
So Kelly, is the two-car, I can't remember, is the two-car going to be where that pad is, and then the third car will be a little bit west of that? Is that right?
Excuse me, that, right where the edge of that pad is actually going to be the driveway into the garage doors. That's
Okay.
where that will drive in at. Excuse me. And then the concrete pad actually sits about 8 feet in front of that existing part of the house. So if we were to line that garage up, it would sit 8 feet in front of the existing part of the house. So if you guys want us to slide it back 8 feet and make everything even, architecturally, it'd probably look better anyway. So, I mean, we could redo this drawing and do it up that way. But it would actually, we would use where we park the cars at now would be the drive-in to the single and part of that double section.
Okay.
And it's got a workshop further down that's going to be sort of even with the house.
Yep. I like that.
How would staff feel best to proceed? Either as is or any additional exceptions?
Well, I think if we're going to proceed this evening, we need to enter the exhibit that was given to us this evening and add it as a Exhibit 5, I believe. I think there were only 4 exhibits uploaded, so this would be Exhibit 5. And then just modify the requested motion to be that the substantial compliance is in conformity with both Exhibits 3 and 5, as opposed to just 3.
Is everyone all right with that? And if so, go ahead and accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 2207 VS 24, 16132 Oak Road, with the recommended conditions that the property be developed in substantial compliance with the site plans and elevations in Exhibit 3 and 5, and that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy to the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Janine and second by Bowler. Staff, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion to adopt the findings of fact.
I'll second.
Staff, would you go ahead and please call the roll?
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Matter's approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to 2207-VU-10, Gonzalez Construction. Dane, I believe you're doing presenting.
Evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of use proposal for a 4-acre parcel located approximately a quarter-mile north of 169th Street on Westfield Park Road. Property is zoned EI, enclosed industrial, surrounded by EI zoned properties on 3 sides and an EI underlying zoned PUD on the 4th side. The variance of use request is to permit a construction trade office on the property. Construction trade offices are typically permitted in EI zone districts, but are excluded from the US Highway 31 overlay zone, which this property is located. The petitioner, Mauricio Gonzalez, represented by Matt Pleasant of Pleasant Cities LLC, is here this evening. As you may recall, Mr. Gonzalez received variance of use at 133 West 161st Street at the March 16th, 2018 BZA meeting, which was extended at the November 9th, 2021 BZA meeting for the use of a construction trade office until a more suitable property was found for the business. This item has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no comments. Matt Pleasant would like to make a brief presentation, after which he will be available for questions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Matt Pleasant with Pleasant Cities LLC. I'm located at 5821 Juliet Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46219. Thank you, Dane, for the intro. You covered about 90% of my presentation already, but I'll do quickly go through it. If you do recall, Mauricio and I came before you back in November of 2021, asking for an extension of a already granted variance on his house located on 161st Street. That was granted and given a 3-year extension at that meeting. And again, Mauricio has been trying for many years now, but I'm extremely excited to finally say that we've come back and we have found a location that we can hopefully permanently stay for the rest of his working days. This property is located approximately a quarter-mile north of 169th Street on Westfield Park Boulevard. As Dane mentioned, it's surrounded by industrial uses. The reason why we're before you today, the 31 overlay restricts a lot of uses within the area, and it does meet within that 1,000-foot threshold. due to the nature of the surrounding area, and it does meet the comprehensive plan, in our opinion, due to it being as an employment corridor. We're looking to allow the use to actually function. Now, I know a thought coming up is, so today, we're coming through with the use variance. Mauricio intends to meet the ordinance moving forward after that, if it were granted today. Intends to meet the ordinance, file for the detailed development plan, and go ahead and start building based on engineering and the architecture that is required of the ordinance. However, if there is an opportunity that we need to come back, we might come back from a development standards variance. I'm not anticipating it, but it is an option that it's possible, mainly because of the fact that there is the creek running through there. There is a floodplain. I know there's going to be some adjustments to it, but we also want to be cognizant of that region and make sure that we are all okay. But we need to have engineering. The reason why we're kind of coming through now with the use variance and not necessarily of both and have an engineered site, and I don't have a site plan for you, the seller for the property, who actually is the owner to the property to the north, put a time schedule on us that was just, it's not humanly possible to get something off the ground from having an engineering standpoint. We need like 8 to 10 months, and we have about 3. So we wanted to make sure we at least have the property transferred over to Mauricio so he can actually do what he would like to be doing as an office, and then everything else will come back. Like I said, hopefully just through staff for the plan commission to review the detailed development plan. Otherwise, we may be back here, just depends. With that, I am finished. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
In lieu of any comments from my fellow board members, I'll go ahead and start the public hearing at 7:32. If there's anyone here, please go ahead and step on up if you want to speak on this matter. Otherwise, if you're virtual, please send in your emails. Anything from staff?
No virtual comments at this time.
All right, go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:33. If any of fellow board members have any questions or comments, please go right ahead.
This is going to be a stupid question, I'm sure, but what is the difference between open industrial and enclosed industrial?
So enclosed industrial does not allow any outside storage. Open
Okay.
industrial does, at least to some extent.
That's what I thought, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, it was a good question, and it looks like on the map that there's some open industrial just to the north of here. So looks like a very similar use. And I just want to say thank you for willing to keep your business here in Westfield as well. I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a longtime resident, it's nice for you to be able to be a resident and also work here as well. So thank you.
Danny, could you remind me of what the expiration is on the existing variance for 161st Street? And then just, Matt, if you could reiterate, if everything goes as planned, I mean, obviously you need a little bit of overlap to move the existing operation to proposed location, but you would cease operations at 161st after you're functioning at this at the proposed location. Just if you could confirm those two issues for me.
I was gonna go ahead and answer for that one, Mr. Schmitz, if you don't mind. The variance of use that was provided at Mauricio's home on 161st Street was granted till the end of 2024. And this one, your second question was, yes, that is correct. That would be enough time. The timeline would be assuming, and just, let's just live in this world where you guys have approved this and the purchase goes through, Mauricio would then immediately start getting his contractors involved, drawing up site plans, the architect involved to find out. So it's gonna take a few months after that. Once a detailed development plan, I anticipate probably either late this year or early next year, and then start construction as fast as possible after that. So the timeline that is today for the 24 is definitely enough time to get this constructed, pending any state and city kind of hesitancy, or not hesitancy, procedures, which I don't foresee it being a problem.
Mr. Gonzalez, did you have any additional things to add?
I just want to say again, thank you, everybody, for the support. I started here in Westfield back in 1987. So a lot of people have seen me growing here. And I'm here to do everything legal, as you have seen. And as far as C's business over there, that's the intention. But I still have to drive a truck that maybe has a logo in it, and I don't want somebody said, hey, you running business out of there, just to be aware of. I have to, sometimes I have a company vehicle to my main place. Thank you.
So with that, you mentioned the possible storage of a company vehicle at your current residence. Would there be any other operations, anything?
That's not the intention. I like to move everything out there, not two places.
Perfect.
I think he's meaning his personal work truck,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
which is permitted, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
But having employees show up to actually, like with the actual functioning today, no, that wouldn't happen after this is built.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
think-
thank you. I want to reiterate, I mean, since the late 1980s, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your dedication. Dane, did you have something additional? I'm sorry.
I was thinking about what the question, Dave, you were asking. Is it possible the question you were asking was that, assuming this is granted and the development plan is in place and the new, this property, all operations are there, is it possible that the variance could still be active at the other property for a certain overlap time? That was what I was wondering, if that's was a potential concern of yours. It probably wouldn't be active for even a year or maybe some months, I'm guessing, after everything was on this site, before it expires.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to make sure it wasn't a situation where we're approving two that, for a fairly long period of time. So that's fine. Thank you.
With that, in lieu of any more comments or questions, do we have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve 2207 VU 10. Doesn't have an address, for Gonzalez Construction, and there are no conditions.
I'll second that.
Staff, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to adopt the findings of fact.
I'll second that.
Second by Buller. Go ahead, staff, please.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your matters approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Moving right along to 2207-VU-11, 4027 West State Road 32. Courtney Clark. Weston, I believe this is yours.
Thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The property in question is located at 4027 West State Road 32. The petitioner is requesting a variance of use to permit a private leisure and hobby facility on approximately 0.37 acres of land in the SF5 zoning district. Within the department staff report, please take note of the background section, which outlines the specific history and context of the requested variance before you. This item does require a public hearing tonight and has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no public comments at this time. Matthew Forsythe with Forsythe Law LLC is here tonight to provide a brief overview presentation. He's available to answer any questions, as am I, should you have any for staff.
Thank you, Weston. I'd like to thank the board as well. Matthew Forsythe, I'm here on behalf of Courtney Clark. I want to just maybe provide a little bit of a background and first apologize. I'm not a land use lawyer. I'm a litigator, and I'm kind of fish out of water here. So at any rate, Ms. Clark acquired this property back in September of last year. She closed on this parcel. The previous owner represented to her that, in essence, the existing structures, the entire parcel, could be used almost without limitation. That was the understanding. Those were the representations made to her, even under oath. At the next month, it was approximately October of last year, when she then initiated the process of developing the parcel. There was a well, with quote unquote, there was a hole in the ground there that was damp. She contacted a welling company, C&J, to come out and advise her as to whether or not they could access the existing well. That is the point in time when she found out that the existing well was entirely problematic. It was for a myriad of issues. She then contacted the Jessica Haney at the Board of Health to see what could be done. And it was at that point that she found out that there were several issues with this parcel. Initially, Ms. Clark wanted to use it as a dwelling place for a tenant. She no longer entertains that expectation whatsoever. She simply, and I think what maybe I'd like to expand upon a little bit is this has been termed a private leisure and hobby facility. I think I would like to characterize that more as it's just she has two young boys that enjoy crafts. They live in a subdivision. They like to get out in the country a little bit. They have fun mowing the ground and running around out there. She simply wants a place to take her kids out, do some crafts, maybe picnic, and enjoy the parcel in that way. And there's no expectation to use it in any commercial capacity. She'll use it just with her family, her boys, and maybe some close other family members. So that's really the overview. That's what she's looking for the variance to entail. One of the issues too is that this is an accessory building that after she acquired the property, she came to find out that there was an existing code violation because there was no primary building on the property. So what she would like to do is have this considered the primary building, and not residence, without the necessity of building an accessory facility out there. So that's really the overview. I think if there's, go ahead, yeah.
Courtney Clark, this is 4027 West State Road 32 in Westfield. Yes, got myself into a headache with this one just by being naive, not clearly understanding all the codes that there were in building and permits. And I used her realtor, which I trusted, and they said that I could build up if I would like to build up because it was such a small piece of property. There is an easement running underneath, and the previous owner knew about this. The health department showed me the conversations that they've had about it on email, and she smacked that building right on top of it. I was not told that either. And so originally I had purchased for a friend who essentially was homeless and was going to fix it into a tiny home. And I was going to use part of that as have an art wagon out there for my kids to do art and recreational activities while he was able to live and do his tree work. That fell through, and me and my explanation here is just I want to be within code. I've learned so much about this. This is absolutely incredible how much I've learned. I had to have not specialized land survey done by one company that would pick it up because the city was so involved. I know what soil borings are now, and she went off property with those. I've learned a lot, and I know every little inch of this property, and it's not going to be anything other. Right now, I just need it to be legal and within code. I want to follow what your regulations are. Down the road, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I don't want it to be sitting there and continuing asking Brandon Oliver for extra time while I'm going through this lawsuit and things. So if I could have the variance, then at least I'm making one step in the right direction or learning through it. This is after a divorce as well, so I'm learning a lot.
I reviewed all of the recommendations. We have no objection to any of those. We don't see any of those as a problem.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
I understand that you've got yourself into a pickle and just trying to figure everything out. So very much so appreciate you wanting to be compliant with everything. Before we jump into the public hearing, I have just one question. If any other board members have a question as well, please speak up. I may have missed it, but for the variance of use, do we have a timetable on it, or is it just allowing the variance of use?
There's no timetable
timetable.
proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Does that mean like an expiration of the
Yes, expiration, yeah. So like the previous petition had an expiration of 2024, so just didn't know if I had missed that or not.
Yeah, I will clarify that there's none that staff is proposing, if
Okay.
if that's something that the board would entertain.
Thank you for clarification. If there's no other board comments, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:48. We have one speaker? Or- Okay.
Julia Hoskins, and I live at 18384 Joliet Road. I just had one question. There's now a gray accessory building next to that that's not showing up on those pictures. What's that being used for?
So that is
Step to the mic, please.
that is on wheels, and it's considered a trailer. So I asked permission if that was okay, and they said it was okay because you can have one trailer. It's used as an art wagon. I'm going to sell it. And I have spoken to my neighbors, the person who was gonna live there. I said, if there's anything overnight or anything, call me, take a picture, let me know. And because no one is supposed to be there, it's not supposed to be worked on. But that's what we were using it for. The kids and I were just doing artwork out there. And originally, I was using that trailer. It was going to be the bathroom for the water and the septic hookup, the shower, the kitchen area, while he finished out the tiny home. That was the plan. But then it became the art studio, and now that's painted gray. I'm going to sell it, and it's going to be off property soon.
Okay, I just wondered because it would make one of those an accessory building, and so there would either be a primary and an accessory or two accessories for it. I just wondered.
No, I thank you for asking that,
Yeah.
because I learned too that like the dwelling has to be a certain, the red building is an accessory building basically. So then there's another one that was previously there, and then this trailer. So none of them are primary. So you're right. Thank you for.
But the gray one will be moved.
It will be moved, but it's not. It is on wheels. It's got a hitch and all of that. So, but right now I got to sell it. Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have any emails? If not, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing since we're having dialogue.
No emails.
All right, go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:52. With that, thank you for the public comment with the clarification. Go ahead and open up comments and questions to the board.
I have a question. Do you currently have water and electric on the property now?
There's Duke Electric, no water, and no septic. I would have to have a sand bed septic system if I were going to have that, and that water, just from the health department, you can't have the well without the septic, and there has to be a primary, so there's no water. But yes, there is electric.
You said that these are used by your two young boys. I mean, do they plan overnight stays or anything?
They're 9 and 10. We don't
Okay.
go overnight. And they hate the property now. It was titled Tiny Pines, and they call it TP because they're so upset about it because it's just been a headache. But this is more of a process of teaching them too. You don't just jump into things. You've got to learn like I'm learning. And no, there will be no overnights.
Okay, I mean, my concern if there were like overnight stays or
Ew.
things like that would be restroom facilities.
Oh,
you
of
know.
course, and that's one of the issues. It's hard to have the kids out there at all because there's no restroom. So I can't have a garden. I mean, there's nothing. This is a nightmare, but having a ping pong table or maybe like drawing or some kind of thing where I can have them enjoy. I mean, I taught my son how to do a push mower for the first time. That was good. We went to, he learned, and he was yanked and did all of that. So there's things that originally there were so many different plans for it, but I mean, this is a puzzle piece of a headache and nightmare that you all can see. I couldn't. But my boys, no, they're not going to have sleeping bags and be out there. And when they're older, they're not going to be drinkers or partiers because I'm putting my foot down on that now. So that is not the recreation we're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for staff. With variance of use, do they have to notify the neighbors around them?
Yes, the neighbors were notified for the public hearing, just as a variance of development standard would be.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And my boys helped me with that. They helped with all the mailing and understand that.
Yeah, and Staff received an affidavit for all those procedures as well from the petitioner.
Dave, did you have anything?
I think the list of conditions are restrictive enough that basically it seems like it permits what the property's being used for without any, expansion of the use, without any expansion of the facility. And it has some conditions that it seems like will be difficult to satisfy as far as getting an ILP and getting a approval to be on the legal drain. And I guess I got the vibe that if you're litigating, you're represented by a litigator and mention representations under oath and a lawsuit. So I assume there's some action against the prior owner. And is this basically just a way to clarify that you have the right to use it for something productive during the period of time and let that litigation run its course? Is that essentially what's going on here?
Yeah, I'll take that one on if I may. Yeah, exactly. I mean, without the variance, it's just an empty lot, and there's really no use whatsoever. And so we duke it out in court. At least with this process and the variance, it can be used for some productive activity at a minimum.
And that's preferential to having no permitted use and thus less value and thus more damages.
Yeah, and I would just want to add too that another element to this is the active code enforcement case too. So this is intended to provide some relief
Okay.
on that front.
And that was brought about not by complaints of anyone in the area, but by the petitioner seeking, the approvals that she sought, and then you realize, hey, hold on a second, right?
The original, the structure on the property being considered the primary structure was originally erected without a building permit. And when that was found out, then the variance, it was realized a variance would be needed for it. And so the previous property owner was going to seek a variance. It was docketed. However, that variance was withdrawn. And so the code enforcement that was technically enacted under the previous property owner remains with the current property owner. So that's the nice.
I see. Well, yeah, that, if it's petitioner's wish to have a productive use to this that's very limited in the scope based on its conditions, then, and with the lack of any public concern, I have no concern either. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only question is, because there's the other building on there, even though it's on wheels, does that fly against the recommend number 6 that says that no further buildings or structures shall be permitted on the property?
No, the current one does not have any sort of foundation, and it's also less than 200 square feet in size. So it doesn't need a building permit. It doesn't need anything like that. It's movable, so it's not considered to be permanent in nature. So
Okay.
it would not meet that threshold.
Thank you.
It looks like a building, but it's a wagon, and you can hitch it up. So, but like I said, I'm gonna sell it.
Do we have any other comments from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion. And because I usually read the long ones, I'm happy to do so if you do not, Bowler. Okay. I will make the motion to approve 2207-VU-11 4027 West State Road 32. Petitioner Courtney Clark with the following recommended conditions: that the variance of use shall be tied to the applicant and their heirs. 2, that the property shall not be open to or used by the general public. 3, that the property shall not be used for commercial purposes. 4, that the existing building on the property shall not be retrofitted or modified to become a dwelling. 5, that the existing building on the property shall not be expanded. 6, that no further buildings or structures shall be permitted on the property. 7, that the building location shall be contingent on receiving approval from the Hamilton County Surveyor's Office due to the proximity of an adjacent legal drain. 8, that the petitioner shall submit an improvement location permit to the Community Development Department, which demonstrates that the building is placed on a foundation with appropriate building anchoring. And 9, that the petitioner shall record acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the court instrument to the Community Development Department. Is there a second?
A second.
Been motion, we have a second. Staff, please call the roll.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact.
I'll second.
Staff, please call the roll.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Your matter's been approved.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Good luck.
You may need it, sir.
And with that, we are to the last matter of this evening, 22066-VS-21, 10 East 191st Street, West Fork Whiskey. With Pam not being here, Weston, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item being presented before you tonight is a variance of development standard request to permit a temporary gravel parking lot for West Fork Whiskey Co. located at 10 East 191st Street. This 12.85 acre property is zoned the Osborne Trails PUD district. The building and the permanent parking area are currently under construction. Additional permanent parking areas will be constructed with future buildings, and the petitioner would like to utilize temporary gravel parking as shown on the site plan options exhibit while those plans are under development. The variances needed to accommodate this request include the following: exempting the surfacing and curbing requirements, exempting the lighting requirements, exempting the parking area landscaping requirements. If approved, the department recommends including the conditions noted in the staff report. Chris Wilkes of Holiday Properties is available virtually to answer questions, but does not plan to make a presentation. He's available, as am I, if you have any questions for staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Weston. In lieu of a petitioner's presentation, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:03. Any emails?
No emails at this time.
And with no one except Kevin being in the audience, go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:04. Do we have any comments or questions from the board?
This is Noble Hatfield. I have a question here. They're putting a lot of money into this facility. Does it already have enough parking without this extra gravel parking lot to meet code?
Yeah, this is Chris Wilkes. I can answer that. Yeah, we have obtained detailed development plan approval from the city of Westfield based on the parking that's being installed as part of the phase one that does not include these yellow lots, if you will. So yes, we are adequately parked under our current phase one. And I would just add a little bit of background here. As you might recall, as part of the West Fork Whiskey Distillery project, there is an event center. Where there's a number of elements to the project, but one of which is an event center that's located on the north west corner of the facility. And what the additional parking would allow our partner in this project, West Fork Whiskey Company, to accommodate, which would be to open we plan on opening the facility hopefully by the end of this month, July. It may drift a little bit into August, but the hope is still to have the ability to, with regard to the event center, accommodate and any events, weddings, things like that could surface here yet this year and then over the next couple of years, to be able to accommodate those type of overflow uses, if you will, with this gravel lot in either one of two locations. And then, that first one there, that is actually it's part of, I believe, the DDP as part of the phase two of parking lot there. The second one, frankly, surfaced a little bit, that one there, thank you, as we began to contemplate this variance, is that as I mentioned, the event center is located on the northwest corner of this building, and this lot in particular may prove in the end to be perhaps the better location for expanded parking as versus that first lot that you see. And that leads me to the second point here. When we are developing this site, it's part of a 12-acre parcel, and the intent for the West Fork Whiskey folks is to add additional facilities to this facility here over time. And so, but what, those plans are a little, while they have ideas in mind, those are in the future, and the desire is to let the first phase of the project get launched and have those future facilities and future uses and future entertainment opportunities develop over time. And so the secondary background use or reasoning for this request is just to allow the site with some added flexibility so that we don't spend money putting down an improved parking lot with curbing, lighting, landscaping, only to find that in looking at what we're looking at, perhaps the best use is an additional building on that lot or the other location there. So that's really two reasons why we're asking for this. Is a near term is to allow them to accommodate some overflow events, and then secondly to allow them to preserve the flexibility to add higher and better uses to the site than just a parking lot. So again,
So it might be contemplated that this gravel parking lot be taken out and the space used for something else?
yeah. So for instance, like with the second option, I should say, is what we're looking at is the gravel lot that's immediately to the north. Frankly, that was an area where, we didn't have much anything intended. If anything, that might be a smaller structure that might be located there. The other option, which is on the other side of that easement, that one, thank you. That too, that was really intended to be the first phase. But like anything, you start to building a facility like this, and something as unique as this, you want to preserve as much flexibility there. So in both those locations, frankly, they're possible that maybe in the end, we come back to and ask for development plan approval for structures, not parking lot. So that's why we are asking for the temporary variance, and I believe it sunsets at 3 years, to allow the site to just get launched and open, and for the experience to be delivered into the public, and just allow for the site to be kind of just developed with the benefit of time, with some flexibility, and so that we can accommodate the highest and best use for the entire 12-acre parcel.
What's the ground like there now? I mean, what was the previous use, farmland or?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not particularly hard pan dirt
No.
at this point.
No, and the site is still under construction. Again, we're hoping to be completed with the entire finished site, by the end of this month, and like I said, may drift into August. But these two areas will be left, just landscaped, probably some, kind of a existing crop condition, if you will. So nothing improved.
I have no more questions.
I'll jump in just real quick because we're talking a lot about parking and, just comparatively to similar facilities in Westfield. And I just have to say that thank you for taking into account the, might needing overflow parking, whether it's beer facilities, wine facilities, whatever it is. We know that this is a big draw for agritourism. So I think this is, my personal opinion, I think this is good use of the land until you figure out, you have the sunset clause of 3 years till you figure out if, okay, yes, you need to have the additional paved parking or additional structure or whatever it may be at that time. So I just want to thank you for having that foresight. And then the second question, or not question, comment is thank you for mentioning the possible timetable of opening. Because I know I've personally received several questions of, hey, when's West Fork Whiskey going to open up? So now I can tell people, hey, stay tuned to within the month or August. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mr. McCarty. We had certainly hoped to be open, 30, 60 days ago, but like a lot of folks in this environment, we've encountered supply chain problems, both the material and labor. So it's pushed us back, but our strong desire is to be open by the end of this month. I really don't want to drift into August. So we had a long meeting with our contractors and design team and everybody today. So we're ready to be open. I know the West Fork guys are really, really excited to be a part of Westfield and the Grand Park area. So we're trying hard to get them open while there's still some, Grand Park season left here.
Absolutely. And thank you. And I just want to share the excitement that I know that the community is just as excited as you all are. So thank you again for choosing Westfield. And I think it's also serving on Planning Commission. So seeing this throughout its entirety process, I think the building looks beautiful right now. So just thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think we struck that was really, I think, a nice, I know the Planning Commission, there's very few, maybe some victories celebrated, but I think actually that process, we started with a kind of a boxy building, if you might recall, and, we ended up, evolving into a structure that frankly still accommodated that functional box, but brought some architectural features that made it look, I don't know, farmhouse is the right term, but certainly more,
a little more character.
Yeah. No, I agree. So I actually think that process was, if there's one, humbly offered, I think that was an example of where the collaboration between the APC and the private sector really worked really well. So.
Agreed. Thank you.
Chris, are you going to do both schemes or just pick between one or the other?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, that's a good question. I don't know if the exhibit specifically calls that out, but the intent is to is to do one or the other, not both. So if
Okay.
if that needs to be clarified in the ordinance, we would be happy to do that. But I thought I saw where it was either or, but the intent is not to do both. If we need both, frankly, we'll come back and have a discussion with you all to bring in the second one. But right now, the intent is to do one or the other.
That was a good question, and it was just pointed out that that is number one recommended condition with one of the proposed site plans in Exhibit 3. So, and
Yeah.
while we're on that real quick, have you had a moment to review the 4 recommended conditions of approval?
Yes, yes,
Thank-
and we're fine with that. We're very supportive of that.
Good deal, thank you. Dave, do you have any additional comments?
No, nothing additional. My, my concerns have all been brought up already. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you on camera too, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. In lieu of any additional questions, comments, or concerns, again, I'm always happy to read the long ones, but if any of my fellow board members are willing to do so for a motion?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll make the motion to accept 2206-VS-21, 10 East 191st Street, West Fork Whiskey Company, with the following recommended conditions of approval. 1, that the gravel parking area be constructed at the location shown and in substantial compliance with one of the proposed site plan options, Exhibit 3. 2, that the gravel parking lot shall be constructed of compacted number 53 stone at 6 inches of depth. And 3, that approval of this variance shall expire on December 31st, 2025. Any request to extend the time limit of this variance shall be reviewed and approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals prior to December 31st, 2025. And lastly, 4, that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
And I'll second.
Motion by Bowler, seconded by Janine. Staff, please call the roll.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Mr. Bowler?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact.
I'll second.
Staff, please call the roll.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Mr. Bowler?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, sir. Matters approved.
Great, thank you. And members of the board, on behalf of West Fork Whiskey and Holiday Properties, we really appreciate your support on this matter. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you and look forward to opening here soon.
Yes. Get that thing
Me
going.
too. Yeah.
All righty. That brings us to the end of items of business. Would like to note that one item is tabled to a future meeting, and then we also had one item withdrawn. With that, I guess I'll just keep on talking because we have reports/comments for APC. Try to gather my chicken scratch here. So we met, oh, that's not even the right. Oh, yes, it is, okay. We met last week at Advisory Plan Commission, that is. We had one consent agenda item that was at Monon's softball concession parking lot. Then items of business, we just had the Andover PUD, which is the Guidepost Montessori Daycare on Grassy Branch Road, and that was approved last night by City Council. Public hearing items, we had Osborne Trails Phase 3 ODP and primary plat. And then majority of discussion revolved around the Woods Robinson Briggs PUD Amendment 2. Birch was seeking an amendment for a modification in the concept plan map to add additional property, changing the use of the park to a nature park, which is along the Monon. We also got into discussion of changing the water feature, but that's not necessarily related to this amendment. That'll be a possible change in a future amendment. Yeah, there's that. And then we had Midtown at Westfield Amendment 1, which is 10 acres at northeast corner of 31 and 191st. Various use for community healthcare pavilion. Looking forward to that. It is already a permitted use, but the majority of the amendment is seeking for the use of premium materials and a variation in the elevations. So looking forward to community health, and they'll both be back at a future meeting for an item of business. Any comments from fellow board members? Alrighty, staff, all you.
We will have a meeting next month, and by that time, we will have a new staff member as well, so I'm guessing you will meet her at the next staff meeting. She is coming from Brownsburg. I believe her name is Lauren. Is that right? Yep, Lauren. Can't remember her last name, so Lauren. Lauren's all you get.
Yeah, another poached individual, yeah. Good deal. Alrighty, well, with that, if could I have a motion to have the meeting adjourned?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Staff, please call the roll.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
We're adjourned at 8:21.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Victor.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did a great job, buddy.